In this video we will demonstrate how to add a checkbox widget to a graphical user interface constructed with Fluid, and this is our laboratory 13. Okay, so the idea is that the shapes such as circles and rectangles could be filled with a certain color. The user could specify which color they want, and we can put them somewhere filled with a specific color. And since line segments cannot be filled, we will attempt to use this option to disable this control on the form, basically deactivate it. So we're going to use, of course, the previous lab 12, as a prototype. If you don't have a copy, you can download and unzip this, which is built with an earlier version of Visual Studio. Currently I'm using Visual Studio 2019, and of course we will rename it. So I already have this project, so I'll just open it in my Visual Studio. You can see it in the view of my Solution Explorer. I already renamed the solution name, project name, and the name of the main file. First, we're going to add the widget, the new checkbox control, to our user interface. And so let's start Fluid. And I still have the previous laboratory design loaded into Fluid, so I'm just going to open the new one, and of course just careful where you point this selection, and this needs to be under lab 13. Open this, and of course it brings the view of the previous lab. Let's change the title, so now it's going to be checkbox. Okay, so we're double click this and change the title to the new laboratory. Okay, so the instruction suggests that what we need to do in Fluid, just make sure that we select Win App, like we select our double window, or you can click inside the view here, or it's easiest to find it in the tree view. And then new buttons, check button. So new buttons, and this will be the check button. Okay, so this brings up the design view. It's a little bit messed up, so we can actually rearrange it to move it right here. Okay, and the new caption will be filled. All right, so we're going to change the label to filled, which indicates whether the circle and rectangle should be filled in our design, and the name of this control is going to be check filled. Okay, so the name right here. Now, and this the type of this control is toggle. So toggle is basically switch between selected and not selected, and the control is this widget is self-sufficient. It does not require a group of radio buttons or anything else. It just exists in its own self-instance, and it knows its state. And that's it. So this is all we have to do in this design. So we can now just save what we changed and write code. So we write code, and we're done here. Once again, there will be support for the checkbox, and we make our progression, accumulating new functionality. So there are now two new versions of main window, header file, and implementation. Let's take a look. Okay, so we can open our lab, and this is the new source location. So this is where those two files should be downloaded under lab 3 source. We're going to save link as, and make sure that we're pointing to the right location. They all look alike, so this is why I like so much to copy and paste these things and never type them manually. So anyway, this is our location, and watch out that by default the browser wants to kind of outsmart the user and make sure that the previous file is not overridden or corrupted by what we're doing. So we need to click it and say, no, we would like to replace it. And here it says, would you like to replace it? Yes. Similarly, we're doing it with the implementation file. Save as, and replacing. Once again, notice that it prompts for something new in this place on my hard drive, but I want the old one to be replaced. Okay, so I just click OK, and so these two are now in place. Let's just make sure that we compile and test, right? So we switch to the build with all new things, and again cout is undefined, so this is a silly change to make. We'll add this because apparently in the prototype version that I was working on for these labs, the IO stream, which is missing here, is being added to the fluid window using fluid. Apparently we neglected to do this in our lab 4, so now we're kind of forced to make this, add this include manually, which is not a big challenge. Okay, so we now have our files, and let's try building. And as we run, now we have the filled checkbox, and let's check mark filled, and then as we switch to the circle, the radio button continues to work, and now the checkbox indicating 1, and if we uncheck it, it's indicating 0. So it's basically alternating between 0 and 1, 0 and 1. And then notice that once the selection takes place right here, the filled option is grayed out, it's deactivated. So now we cannot use it with this selection. However, if we switch to something different here, it gets activated again, and we are able to indicate whether we want this rectangle to be filled or not. And once again, switching to line disables the control. Its state doesn't change, but it's deactivated. So because just to let the user know that you really cannot make any use of this option with the selection. All right, so let's just take a look at what's happening and see what the differences are. And one possible solution to see the differences is to use WinMerge to compare the old and new versions of the files.